Yeah, good evening. Good evening. This is Daniel Bernard Roumain, DBR, Dartmouth Roth Distinguished Visiting Scholar, and welcome to Who You Are with DBR. It's so great to be with you again tonight. Very, very special guest. Very special guest who I'm about to announce. But first, I just wanted to take a moment and check in with you. I hope you're all right. I hope you're healthy. I hope you're safe. I hope you're secure. And in this sense, I am privileged to say that I'm sheltered. I have a home. I'm broadcasting from Norwood, Massachusetts. I'm on sacred indigenous and native land. I'm also on land that black people and brown people also suffered and sacrificed on. And I'm proud to say I'm a black Haitian American composer, raising a biracial son, Zachary, and trying to make my peace in what is a continuously changing and difficult and still yet wondrous life. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Well, and welcome. Welcome to the show. So I don't want to spend any more time in delay in welcoming the great violinist and social entrepreneur and activist and wife and mother and friend, my friend, Rachel Barton Pine.
Hi, Daniel. Great to be here.
Oh, so good to see you. How are you?
Doing very well, thanks.
Awesome, awesome. All right. So we are here. And I am so glad you could do this. I really am. I know how busy you are. And I know that you are doing as many things as I am and many more things as well. And I just want to say thank you. I really appreciate it. And we're going to have a good time tonight. And I'm just really glad that you're here. I'm really excited.
Yeah, well, I loved your last episode, and um, yeah, this is going to
Yeah.
be fun.
It was fun. We had Black Violin, and we have a special guest coming for the next show, which we'll announce at the end. But you are our guest tonight, and I want to make sure I take good care of you and everybody in the comments too. And it's going to be great. So let's dive right in. And first off, I just want to say, how are you? How are you coping? How are you feeling? Take us through your day and your time.
Well, I mean, I'm just grateful that I've got my family here. My husband, my daughter, we're all together. It's sad to not be able to see any of the grandparents and friends. And, I went from being in a different city or country every week to all of a sudden being in my own apartment. But I've always been a glass half full person, and I'm just trying to embrace, I'm not doing one of those like getting into baking, or I'm not looking for ways to fill
Right.
my time. I've got
Yeah.
more than enough catching up to do with my long to do lists, and especially with my foundations projects, which I'm sure we're going to get to. But um, just the fact that we actually can, grow some sprouts and
Ooh.
plant them on day one and be here on day six to harvest them instead of
Ooh.
leaving for the airport. It's just just little things that you don't normally get to do. And my daughter, she's a
Oh.
very serious musician. She's 8 years old and practices a few hours a day and composes. And
Mm.
um, usually when we're on the road, she has to wait till I'm back from my rehearsals and master classes and interviews and this and that. And then it's like 11 p.m. and we go grab a hotel meeting room somewhere and practice for a couple of hours late at night. The life of a musician child. So she's like enjoying the luxury of having my attention in the middle of the afternoon, and just being able to indulge in that grand piano behind me. She can practice on that every day instead of having to try to scrounge for pianos every place we go. And we have homeschooled her. I mean, she's been on the road with me since she was 3 weeks old, so we've always homeschooled her. So I feel exceptionally lucky, that we didn't have to change our routine in that regard. It was just, business as usual in terms of educating her.
Absolutely. So, in you just said something about planting roots, and I define myself as a black Haitian American composer and a farmer and framer of ideas. That's how I define composer. Now, for those very few and rare individuals out there in the world who do not know who Rachel Barton Pine is, in 30 seconds or less, can you self define yourself so that how does Rachel Barton Pine define Rachel Barton Pine?
Well, I'm a redhead. I'm a metalhead. Well, I'm a concert violinist and recording
Yep.
artist. So I go around, I solo with orchestras, I give recitals, but I also love playing early music on Baroque violin and weird things like Rebec and viola d'amore. I love working with living composers. I love playing heavy metal and listening to heavy metal and going to heavy metal concerts. I love the Chicago blues. I love fiddling, particularly Scottish fiddling and American fiddling. Um, I love playing chamber music with all kinds of different people. Right now, just my daughter, but luckily I've got one. And I guess
Oh,
tonight we're gonna
yeah.
jam.
Oh, we're
So
gonna
yeah,
jam.
so I'm a total music geek basically. I love researching music. I'm passionate about music education, about classical music advocacy, classical music access. Um,
Mm.
that's just what I've been doing my whole life.
Well, I love that, and I truly love your work. And I think for audiences, our audience tonight, they're looking at you and they're looking at me, and the differences are obvious. I'm black, you're white.
Oh,
I'm
I was
male.
gonna say I had more hair.
You have a lot more hair, although that wasn't always the case. We'll talk about that a little later.
I know.
But yes, you have beautiful hair. But the differences are obvious, and I always say it's the things that we share in common and hold in common that bind us together, and that's where the art lies. So I wanted to talk a little bit about advocacy, because we're living in a time where BIPOC people, and specific to that, BIPOC classical artists, are really having a different presence in our field, what we refer to in the classical music world or the performing arts world as the field. And in our field, because of the events and the murder of George Floyd and the murder of Elijah McClain and so many others before them, Breonna Taylor, Trayvon Martin, there were too many names, and there will be more names. I want to talk a little bit tonight about advocacy. And I know that for me, an advocate and an ally is someone that understands this moment for black and brown people. That is where equity lies. It's the understanding and the empathy you might have for the suffering and the souls as they say, of black folk. So with that, Rachel, can you take a minute and just help me understand from your perspective what it means to be an advocate to black people and black artists in the black and brown and BIPOC community?
Gosh, I feel underqualified to define such important terms. But I think, looking for ways to serve is
Yeah.
just a lifestyle. And for
Mm.
me, and we could talk about the history of it if you want, but life led me many decades ago
Yeah.
to the music of Black composers, which I realized was just absolutely wonderful. And I, you know, realized also that a lot of children were being disenfranchised and feeling a lack of connection to this great art form of classical music because they didn't recognize that they had a history with it. And because this history was not being taught, it wasn't being disseminated. It was, being written about in obscure academic journals that weirdos like me read with lots of footnotes.
Mm.
But, the normal everyday family didn't have this information about the black
Right.
orchestras of the 1800s, Frederick Douglass and Coretta Scott King playing the violin, all these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of composers from hundreds of years. And so I just decided to embark upon this project about 20 years ago.
Hmm.
And yeah, and I guess I was really excited that I could serve the cause of music and the cause of humanity in an intertwined way because, it's the music itself is great and deserves to be heard, but the composers who wrote it deserve to be lifted up, and the people who are going to play it and are going to hear it and are going to feel recognized and embraced by this music being back, in our canon where it
Yeah.
always should have been. That's so important, and I just feel very lucky to have had the opportunity to do something meaningful.
It really is. And we're going to talk about your foundation that you started, right? Music by Black Composers in just a minute. But I thought one thing that was so striking to me is that as a white person and as a classical world renowned violinist, you have commissioned work by all different types of people, the full spectrum of human beings. And you commissioned me to write you a piece called Hip Hop Dances and Prayers. And I thought it would be so wonderful if you could play a little bit of that piece for us and we could maybe
Absolutely.
talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, I definitely believe in seeking out, underrepresented voices. But on the
Yeah.
other hand, a lot of times when I commission, I just think, what music do I want? Who do I think could do it the best? And sometimes it just happens to be somebody of color, but not by design. But I think
Right.
that's the most beautiful thing of all. And I was looking for something that could be kind of a modern dance suite to
Mm.
pair with the fact that historically Bach's third partita of dance movements was actually cutting edge for its time. And
Right.
so I wanted to kind of bring people to that idea. And I thought,
Mm.
well, what's a really of the moment kind of music, and who does it well, in the classical realm? And I thought, well, hip hop and DBR, that's where it's at. And and you and I had known each other for a long time, and I've always loved your stuff. And
Oh,
I thought it was so awesome that I got to play something of yours written for me, and maybe
yeah.
there's a little bit of me in it at the same time.
Would love that. Would love that. So ASU Orchestras, by the way, is chiming in. Wonderful to see you both. Thank you for the conversation. Hey, right back at you, ASU Orchestra. So from Tempe, Arizona. So Rachel, can you play a little bit of DBR's hip hop dances and prayers? I think this is the first movement.
Yeah, so this is going to be Dance 1. If you want to
Yeah.
hear the full version, it's already on YouTube. It's the only
Awesome.
thing that will pop up if you Google Rachel Barton Pine and hip hop. Maybe now this will be the second
I
thing that
love
pops
it.
up. But this
Take
is the
that.
shortened version just for tonight.
Great.
Give you a
Thank
little
you so
taste.
much. All right. I got to clap for you. I got to do the Zoom based clap, y'all. Oh, give it up to Rachel Barton Pine. That is just fire. That is just fire.
It's an
Man.
amazing piece.
Oh, man, just I love it. And by the way, what can you tell us a little bit about the instrument that you're playing?
Oh,
This
sure.
music on?
1742 Guarneri del Gesù.
Oh,
So one of the greatest makers, Stradivari and Guarneri, are just
Yeah.
the two best guys. And this was previously played by Mary Soldat, one of the
Oh,
19th
yes.
century women violin soloists, and it was chosen for her by none other than Brahms. So it's got quite the
Oh.
legacy, and I'm Very,
Unbelievable.
very lucky to have the use of it. And
Unbelievable.
it probably never played hip hop before me.
Probably not, but it's all folk music, ladies and gentlemen. You know, it's all folk music. Brahms understood that. I understand that. But I think it is important that, I think to myself that watching you and listening you play this music on an instrument that quite literally, in all likelihood, the Brahms Violin Concerto was played. Perhaps for
Oh, no,
Brahms himself.
definitely.
Yeah, right.
Yes,
Yeah.
Marie Soldat was one of its first champions.
Its first champions. So, I had the opportunity, I was commissioned by the Library of Congress, and they took me back into the kind of back area of the library, and they showed me all of these violin concertos. By Mozart. They showed me Sam Barber's Adagio for Strings. They showed me the Brahms Violin Concerto. Interestingly enough, the Mozart I could touch with my hands. He used very, very heavy-duty paper and India ink. I can imagine, and you could see how he would. One day he's going top to bottom. A few pages later, he's going left to right. You could see where he re-dipped. It's just incredible.
Well, I love the Brahms manuscript because,
Yeah.
you can see their arguments right there on the
Yes.
page. They would snail mail it back and
Exactly.
forth.
Yes,
There'd be
and you can see all the
gray pencil, red
That's
pen,
right, red
blue
pen and-
scribbling
Exactly
each
right.
other's things out every
That's
time.
right.
And nowadays, working with a living composer like you and I, it's all been like phone calls, text
Yeah,
messages. Like, we
PDFs.
don't have that record for posterity.
We don't. And you're absolutely right. And of course, Brahms, even though he made a lot of money in his lifetime, didn't use the best paper. So it's laminated. There's somebody standing there with white gloves. They will turn the pages for you. But it was very interesting to just as you say, just actually see those work and to see that documentation. And you're bringing up a really good point here is that, beyond the title and beyond the magnificent playing and the notes, there is this notion of, I've always felt as a composer that I'm part of cultural documentation, right? Who would have thought that hip hop dances and prayers would mean so much now? And
Well, I remember at the time that you were going to write this for me, we discussed whether to have an overt Black Lives Matter theme, and we ultimately
right.
decided not to because we wanted to highlight the connection to the Bach legacy. And
That's
of course,
right.
the prayers, Bach was a person of faith, the dance element, and so on. And we wanted your music to be what it is.
Yes.
But I know that emotional content is still in there, even if we didn't end up titling it as such. And like you said,
so true.
it's sadly, that is still more relevant than ever these
That
days.
is where we are. So if it's okay, I proudly teach at Arizona State University. I'm an institute professor. I don't use the word students. I use the word contributors. We're all contributing to a classroom in a world of ideas. One of the things I always say to contributors, any contributor in front of me, is I'm never going to ask you to do something I won't do myself. So Rachel, if it's okay with you, I thought you've already played for us once and you're going to play again. May I play a little bit and take part in this music making and violin playing tonight? Is that okay?
Well, please.
All right. I'm going to play, not sure what I'm going to play yet. I'm probably going to play, I don't know. We'll figure it out. I'll figure it out about 10 seconds before I play. I'll let everyone know. Actually, I think I'm going to change. I think I'm going to do a little bit of actually, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to do a little bit of a piece that you recorded, Filter.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yay.
And I think that was called Blues Dialogues.
Yeah,
That
my
record?
album. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, Blues Dialogues album.
Yeah, and you did a great version of that. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. I'm going to do a little bit of Filter, although in my humble opinion, the definitive recording is by our special guest tonight, Rachel Barton Pine. But I'm going to do Filter. Filter, actually, I was thinking I wanted to write something that could emulate the great American guitarist Prince and the great Italian virtuoso Paganini. So that was kind
And
of
there's a
my
little
take.
Hendrix in there, isn't there?
Oh, there's definitely a little Hendrix in there for sure. But I'm just going to do a quick excerpt, and here we go. Hope you dig it. All right.
Ooh.
Oh, I'm thinking the whole time I got to be
Alright.
careful of my notes. Hold on, let me get
Ah,
my
that's
chords
rock and
straight.
roll.
That's rock and roll. Well, I got Rachel Barton Pine on the other end. I got to be careful of my notes. Woo!
Oh, that was awesome.
Okay, now I'm
Hey,
in
I want to
pain.
ask you a question.
I'm in pain, sure. I'm in pain, Rachel.
All right. Well, while you rest your fingers, I'm going to exercise your brain.
All
So
right.
this is an issue that comes up because I've been doing this work with music by Black composers, and of course, the voices run the gamut. We're talking about music from all over the planet: Europe,
That's right.
Africa, Latin America, North America, Caribbean, everywhere. And of course, multiple hundreds of years, 1700s all the way to the present day.
That's
So
right.
there's no style that defines a Black voice, even within classical music. Some of it sounds like the Romantic
right.
period or the
That's right.
modernistic this or that, and some of it sounds like Latin American music, or maybe it is influenced by jazz or blues or spirituals or hip hop.
Oh, yeah.
But the question is, I think in classical we all play everybody's music, and that's our joy and, in a way, our responsibility to celebrate each other, to understand each other. But outside of classical, there's a whole conversation, of course, and even outside of music, about
Right.
cultural appropriation.
That's right.
And how does that figure into classical music? Like, here I am playing a piece that's inspired by hip hop. Like,
Sure.
clearly you think that's appropriate, but can you articulate why that's okay? But it might not be okay for me to get up and do some actual hip hop, which I would probably do very badly.
Yeah, I would say it depends on the author and the appropriation. So, right, if you look at Gershwin's Porgy and Bess, right, I find that to be a really problematic work because it's derivative. The author, good person, good man, apparently, from what I know, but he was not a Black person trying to write what I deem as Black classical music. And the fact of the matter is, whether it's Ellington or Armstrong or a little bit later, Nina Simone, quite frankly, or Joan Armatrading, quite frankly, there were other authors trying to do the same thing better. So it's not that the music is wrong or problematic, and it's not the Beatles were a blues band, right? I mean, John Lennon always talked about he was trying to write Black music, the Stones trying to write Black blues music, their version of it. Doesn't make it wrong or right. It's just it's I would say what the audience accepts and wants to celebrate is the appropriation, right? It's a musical vernacular. So even
So maybe there's a difference between being a performer performing this music versus being somebody composing in a style that's maybe not actually your own, or
Sure, and I mean, I think that so much of my race and my culture informs my playing. I know there's a big debate about that, and depending on where you look, Facebook Violinist, there was a huge battle, really, because it was deemed as something not possible. And by that I mean my race and my culture informs my playing. That means that I don't have one pizzicato, I have 50. I don't use one bow grip. I use about 11, depending on what I'm doing. And I'm not always trying to make the violin, even sound like a violin. I want the violin to maybe cry. Even that, the breath. So, I think so much of this has to do with what I would call a musical vernacular. And I think that some composers, and I'm not saying I'm one of them, but some composers can take a musical vernacular and within their appropriation of a music or a style, they can emulate and get closer by degree. Does that make sense? So there's nothing wrong here. I think that's the biggest thing that we get hung up. Is it right or wrong, moral, immoral even? I don't think it's any of those things. I think it's really about an author or an audience, capturing the essence, the soul of a different culture or a different race. Very hard to do, right? I could not write a fugue as good as Bach. Couldn't do it. For all sorts of complex reasons. I have written fugues. Matter of fact, in Voodoo Violin Concerto, where that piece comes from, there are plenty of imitation, plenty of fugue-like moments. But it's not, it's not of the period, it's not of the time or the place. And I didn't have, quite frankly, the same kind of training that Bach did. And of course, I'm not Bach. I didn't have his genius. So all these things, take a play. I did want to, before we lose time, because we're going to use the time that we have, I want to talk a little bit about Elijah McClain.
Absolutely.
Yeah, this young man who played violin. He was a masseuse, but he played violin. My understanding is he played violin for kittens.
I know, it's so
cats
crazy because
animals.
There are all these naysayers about the whole George Floyd thing, like, he had a record and he might have been high and this and that. And yeah, he wasn't a perfect victim. Victims rarely are. Elijah McClain was kind of the perfect victim. He was a pacifist. He was a vegetarian. He played his violin for homeless kittens.
Yeah.
I mean, my God.
Yeah.
I feel like I wish I had known this guy.
I wish I had known him. Yeah, I think that's a great way to say it. And I know that the first vigil, my understanding, was in Aurora, Colorado, or somewhere in Colorado on June 28th. And subsequent vigils have taken place. And I know that, you and I have talked about the possibility of an online violin vigil for Elijah McClain. We're working on that, yeah. But I just wanted to kind of bring us into that realm of you've had a lot of our friends have actually either started or put together, produced, or participated in some of these violin vigils. In fact, there was one recently, I think, in was it Virginia? And we might have a clip of it, actually. Let's see if we have a few moments.
I remember seeing that horrible Monument Avenue when I in Richmond there in '99 when I went to solo with the symphony, and it's a lot of bad things in the world, but this is hope. This is improvement. The statue is down, and there's some violinists playing. Right.
So that clip is important. That was sent by a friend of yours. Sent you that clip, right?
Yeah.
It seems like she was there. Obviously, they're playing Pachelbel's canon. What I love about these vigils, by the way, all different types of violinists are there. Professionals, non-professionals, I like that word better. All playing together. There's speechifying, there's poetry, moments of meditation. We could see that particular statue, a particular statue had been pulled down and graffitied with words that matter. What's it like when you see something like that? Especially, you said you had soloed with the Richmond Symphony. Is that right?
Yeah, well, way
Yeah,
back in '99 was the
way
first
back in
time I
'99.
visited that city.
That
Of course,
city.
went there a number of times since then. And
Yeah.
yeah, well, growing up in Chicago, living here my whole life, and traveling all over the world, but I had
Right.
not been, to too many places in the South yet as a young artist, and just realizing like that things were very much not yet fixed.
Yeah.
It's
Oh
a
man,
process and a
it's a
long
process.
delayed one.
And he just mentioned, you live in Chicago. For me, I was born in Skokie, by the way, truth be told, but I left when I was 5. And to me, Chicago, it seems like a political wedge issue. To hear the current administration talk about Chicago, I think the other day someone said it's worse than Afghanistan.
Oh, for goodness sake.
All right. What is Chicago like? Can you talk a little bit about your experience there? You're living there. You're working in some of the best and the problematic or challenged sections. What's it like in being in Chicago?
Well, I mean, I live downtown in a nice condo building, as you would expect. And
Sure.
I grew up in a working class neighborhood on the north side, but it wasn't a
Hmm.
crime ridden neighborhood. And,
Sure.
um, there are certain pockets that you don't go to, and the rest of the city is perfectly fine. And yeah, there
Sure.
are lots and lots of problems in those pockets. And actually, violins were helping address for many years one of those neighborhoods. Unfortunately, my friend, the teacher, left town and moved back to
Mm.
Mississippi, where he's doing good work there. But yeah, I went and visited in Inglewood,
In
the infamous
Inglewood.
Inglewood, and there were
Yeah.
these wonderful little kids who were just coming together with their families and learning violin. And that's what we need more of.
That's what we need more of, and I'm so glad you do that. I'm so glad you do that because I think it's important. I think that this isn't a problem that's going to be. I don't think this is a problem that's going to be solved by law enforcement or federal agents or politicians. I've always said when our politicians and police and pundits fail us, artists have always led the way. And Rachel, I think that your foundation, music by Black composers, right? That all of these things are helping to heal and to lead the way, teaching violin lessons in Inglewood, putting putting your welfare at risk to do this. But can you talk a little bit about music by Black composers and the website, which is so important? And why did you start something like that? What is that all about? It's amazing.
Well, see, I made an album in '97 of works
Mm,
from the 1700s and 1800s by Black
mm,
composers from Europe and the Caribbean. It's literally called Violin Concertos by Black Composers of the 18th and 19th Centuries. We didn't used to have catchy album titles in
that's right.
'97. And I recorded the music literally because I really liked it, and it had been, under
Oh,
recognized, and I wanted to get something cool out there. And I was naively not even thinking of the social justice element of things, but I just
right.
thought the music was amazing.
Awesome.
And like, why haven't we known these pieces all along? And then after the album came out, I started getting numerous requests from students and parents and teachers asking for more of this music, and realized that there were a number of problems. That a lot of pieces had been long since out of print.
Oh,
A
right.
lot of pieces were never published,
Right.
in manuscript only, because of course, historic discrimination. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've always been like a total research geek. Like, that's what I love to do. And so I thought, well, I can marry my passions for music advocacy, music education, music research, and get this done. And at first I was like, why is everybody asking me? Because there are
Oh, wow.
renowned Black music researchers out there in the
Yeah,
actual musicological field. But
that's right.
and I realized, well, I'm the public face. I'm a performer who's playing this music
Oh,
at a time when basically very few were. And so, it's kind of like, supporting efforts of so many other organizations,
yeah.
places that are providing lessons for underrepresented populations, for little kids, places like Sphinx that are lifting up
That's
the
right.
best talent,
That's right.
um, Black and Latino performing artists. And, having the music there to play is, another prong in the big picture. And
That's right.
it's been, a lot of effort over many, many years, but we've collected more than 900 pieces by more than 350 composers. Our first
Amazing.
curricular volumes are out. We have just a million different resources on our websites, from repertoire lists to reading lists, children's books, timeline of composers, all kinds of good stuff. We have a coloring book that you are
Yes,
in,
that I'm
of the
in. That's
40 the
right.
40 most important Black composers all
Ah,
throughout history.
so
Um,
beautiful. So
and
beautiful.
Yeah, so you can color Daniel. And I think
Awesome.
we have a giveaway.
We do have a
Of
giveaway. So the first 5 people to write into this email address, samantha.c.lazar@dartmouth.edu, you're going to get a free coloring book. Yes, and you can color me bad, or color me anything. You can
And I
add
just wish
dreadlocks to.
Yeah, I know.
Oh
Like
yeah,
I had so wished that you still had your dreads when we made the coloring book,
sure.
but they were long since gone.
There's
So
such gone. I was thinking they can draw in their own dreads. You can draw
there
them
you
in.
go.
So
There
there
you
we
go.
go.
And actually, you can get just the page of Daniel
That's right.
by going to musicbyblackcomposers.org
Awesome.
/sample. And then you
Woo.
can download just his picture. But if you want all of the 39 others, and they each come with a biography of the composer. So it's a great way to get an intro to all of this music that's been going on for so long around the
That's
world
right.
and just, see who all these great people are.
Well, Rachel, it has been such a pleasure. We're going to play just a little bit more, and then we're going to talk about your show tomorrow morning, which I don't want to forget about. But I thought it'd be so cool if we could have a little violin battle, as
All
they
right.
say. Yeah, a little back and forth, and we're going to just jam this out. So let's do this.
Oh my gosh, I'm still like free improv in public still gives me a little bit of trepidation.
I know. It's part of our tradition. It's all part of our tradition. But
Well, I love hanging around Daniel because he just always like challenges you on so many different fronts, and
oh
I
yeah.
don't even know who's watching right now, but they're gonna see me attempt to keep up.
Oh, here we go. Well, how about you go first?
Okay, so you wanted me to start with a little Bach or something, right?
Yeah.
Should I start with what I started with when we did this in Florida?
Yeah.
That time?
Oh, that's right. That time off the Atlanta coast or the Georgia coast.
should I-
Yeah.
yeah.
Florida coast. No, you're right. Florida coast. Yeah. Yeah. Sure. E major and then yeah.
I'm envying your lower strings. I have a 6 string, but it's not acoustic, so
It's okay. I'm with you. I got you.
if I can't go low, I'll go high.
Yes. Woo. Man, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
We
Oh,
can't do that over the internet.
I know, right? Love the combo. Oh, violin and viola. Yes, Stephen, we got it to the violin, viola, and cello. Yes, but oh, Rachel, it's just so great to make music with you because I love, it lets me know a little bit more of what almost like what's important to someone, like that's what's amazing when you're making music with someone. You can tell how they're.
Well, it's an actual conversation
It's an
rather
actual
than a prepared
conversation.
speech, right?
Totally, totally. And it's so beautiful. And I wanted to, as we're wrapping up, you're doing another show tomorrow morning for us. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, so every Friday at 11:30 a.m. Central and whatever that translates to in the other time zones, I do a little 20-minute program that I call Family Fridays. So it's not for children, but it's approachable by children, and it's just kind of a little lunch break. I talk about the music, play some cool stuff, and tomorrow it's going to be a dance theme. So I'll be doing an American waltz, a little Scottish fiddling, some Bach, and your second hip hop dance. So
Oh, right.
you can
Awesome.
check that out. And it's a very different flavor than your first one, like
Very
very
different.
like kind of dark, edgy.
Yeah.
I love it.
You have to tune in tomorrow. Family Fridays with RBP tomorrow at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 11:30 a.m. PDT. Streaming on YouTube and Facebook. Link in the chat. We do have a quick question that we're going to try to answer in 30 seconds. It's from Allie. Question is, what compositions or kinds of compositions do you find the most challenging and why? What do you
Oh,
think, Rachel?
goodness.
I know, right?
Well, I guess pieces by dead composers who aren't really part
Oh,
of the conversation, because
right.
I can't call them up and ask them my questions, and there's not a
Right.
body of knowledge of, oh yeah, this person studied with someone who used to play with them, and there's not that collective knowledge of what that composer's style is. So you have to dig deep and try to research and figure out, because what's on the page is really only a jumping off point, and there's so many unanswered questions. And if the composer's dead and we don't know that much about them, it's a lot of guessing work. And so it's fun, but also
Right.
a little challenging.
Right, exactly. Well, Rachel, I just wanted to end by first put my fiddle down by saying thank you so much. You truly are an ally and an advocate. Check out music by blackcomposers.org. I think, is that right?
That is right. Yes.
Music by blackcomposers.org. That is a real place where you can go to find music by Black composers. Also, check out, as we were talking about, the Great Sphinx organization, which Rachel has been such an integral part of, both Rachel and I. Please, remember the Center for Black Music Research. Yes, and all the problems there, but it's okay. What we really got to do is focus on where people can go to learn about Black music and Black composers. And Sphinx has started a new link on their website too, which really can point you in the direction to finding out so much of their work. Check out Rachel's website. Check out, of course, DanielRomain.com. And I'm going to be back in August with a very special guest, the founder. Well, we'll just leave it with one name, Jawale, who founded Urban Bushwoman many, many years ago. She's going to be joining us in August. I find her to be iconic, not only in the world of dance, but a true national treasure in the world of the performing arts. And it's going to be a really exciting time to have her on our show in early August. So check out for that. Check us out for that. But Rachel, thank you so much for being here. I think it's an important conversation. We need advocacy. We need allies. You've always been an advocate. You've always been an ally. What an incredible career. What incredible courage. And what an incredible.
I mean, I can't take too much credit. I have to thank all those who've helped guide me, and to this day, all the projects of our MBC project, it's all of the different activities that we do are always guided by our advisors, of which you are one.
That's
And
right.
we've got so many voices contributing to decide the direction that we go and how we accomplish what we want to accomplish and what the things are that we want to accomplish, and all of that. And I'm just happy to be a part of making it happen. But it's really a collective effort for sure.
Well, it's wonderful, and you've been, we've known each other a long time, and I just wanted to do a show where we could talk about, as we're thinking about race and culture and equity and best anti-racist practice, one of the things that we need to keep talking about is how we can build what I call a new ecology for the arts, and that takes all of us. We all have a part and a role to play, and you've been doing that for decades, for years, and you continue to do that. And I just think it's so important for us to continue continue to have these conversations and to have these guiding lights and these strategies towards specific systemic change, and the people who can hand it, who can really, people who have done it and are doing it. I think our violin vigil for Elijah McClain, which we're really talking about, is another way that we're going to really think and rethink that. And I did want to say, because it's really important to say, that Jawole Willa Jo Zolar, the founder and inventor of Urban Bushwoman, will be joining us in August, and we can't wait for that. Thank you to everybody here at Dartmouth, both in front of the screen and behind it, for all your hard work. Sam, Joshua, Mark, and of course Mary Lou, and Rachel, Barton Pine. Thank you so much for being here with us. You truly are one of our national treasures, and we really need you. We really need you. Awesome. Thank you.